Well, election season is upon us, and if you've got questions about how the process works, or even if your vote matters, well, that's where our first guest comes in. We've got Matthew Moore from KUAF Radio. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Guys, thanks so much for having me. It's nice to cross our mediums here,
Yes.
from radio to TV.
Listen to your voice. Just what a voice.
We've hired Matthew to read all of our teases going forward.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Matthew, let's talk about this podcast. How did the idea, it's called Natural Election Live.
Yes.
How did the idea to host this particular podcast come about?
Right. So, you know, it's a big election year here in Arkansas. We've got a governor's race.
Right.
We've got lots of big races happening. But it's really important to remember that local elections really matter, too. Did you know that in 2017, there was an election that happened in Greenland? There was a school board election. It was an unopposed race, and the person didn't win. Literally,
What?
no one voted for her. She didn't even vote for herself.
Okay.
No one showed up.
No one showed up to vote for her.
Wow.
And so really what we're trying to do with this event is talk about, does my vote matter? And the answer is clearly yes, right? I mean, one person voting, or she herself, the candidate, would have made that election happen. And so that's really kind of the impetus with this live event, is to talk about, does my vote matter? I think a lot of times people can get disenfranchised with these big elections up at the top of the ballot, but it's important to remember that these local elections matter, and they really make a difference in your local communities, whether it's school board, whether it's city council. And so that's really the idea of what we're trying to talk about here with this podcast.
Yeah. Sure. Let's talk about some of the topics that you'll cover in the podcast. You just referred to the Greenland or Greenwood?
Greenland, yeah.
Greenland election. What other topics are you going to be covering during a podcast?
Right. So we're going to talk about how local elections matter. We're going to talk about how the process works. I think a lot of times, you know, we hear about election security. We're actually going to have Jennifer Price, who's the executive director of elections here in Washington County, to talk about you know, what happens between you cast your ballot and the election results happen. Like, what happens in that process, you know, kind of just to remind people that elections are safe, they're secure, they're on your side, they want your vote to count, and just welcoming people into that information and knowledge and whatever we can provide to our voters to make sure that they have the right information and they feel confident in what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some information for you at home, because you are invited to come to this. And Matthew, you are encouraging people to bring their questions that they may have.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll have Janine Perry, who's an associate professor at the University of Arkansas in political science. She's an expert in polling as well. So we really want to encourage our folks, whether it's coming in person to the Prior Center, whether it's attending over Zoom, however you were able to attend, come, bring your questions. These folks want to help you better understand elections this season.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody out there who's watching right now and maybe thinking, you know what, my vote doesn't matter. It's not really important that I show up because it's already done. Maybe they think that the election's already, you know, it's a done deal.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question that I ask a lot, too. I think of, you know, my experiences in voting, and I think there's something really satisfying in, you know, there's a reason that they give out those little stickers every time you go. That, like, you know, yes, it may not matter to the bigger, you know, there's thousands of people voting in Washington County and Benton County across the area, but like your vote matters. And even if it's just like one vote in one school board election, these things matter. And so, you know, every vote makes a difference, and it's important to be engaged in your community.
Sure, absolutely. And even if you have questions like, if I run unopposed, should I vote for myself?
Yes,
do I automatically win? Because these are things that people just do not know.
Right.
I find that very fascinating, because in that situation, I would just assume that person has won. They're the only one there, so why do I need to vote there if there's only one person there?
Yeah, it matters. It definitely matters. So we're excited to have a full room of folks at the Prior Center. We're excited to answer people's questions and just kind of destigmatize having to know all the answers when you go to the polling place, too. There are people there that want to help you, that want to make sure that you know what you're doing when you get there, and you can feel confident that you're making the right choice, whatever that choice is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for making the choice to come on Good Day in WA today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Head over to our website. You can catch up on more topics related to elections. And again, thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us.
Thanks.